Hello everyone, welcome to the second part of height for the stone wall. This one requires two parts because it's a little bit longer, but let's get right into it. Okay, so in the first part we left off here where we made our portal for our bricks. So this portal has all the details that we just added for bricks, and this will come in handy later, as you can see all these connections. Because later on we're going to need to differentiate between what is brick and what is the mortar between. So we have that. What do we want? Let's go down here just because it's very simple. We won't need this till like later on, but let's just get it out of the way now. So after the sharpen here, we're going to pull out into an ambient occlusion, an HBAO. I think this is a default one. And then from it, we are going to be making a portal, and we're just going to call this AO brick only. Later on, we're going to have an AO for the mortar only, and then we're going to have another AO that's going to be both of them combined. So I call it AO so that when I make a portal, all my AOs are together. Oh, we just have two. Alright, so that's pretty simple. Okay, so then after that, what is happening here, don't be scared, if we just show this. So what we're doing here is we have another boolean here for missing bricks. So if we look back to one of my renders, we have the ability to have some of the bricks look removed, or like they're missing or fell out, or whatever the case. So to do that, once we have all our bricks done, we need a portal referencing to the mask brick shape. With just to show you real quick, I'll just show you this one. This is a reminder of what it is. That is the portal that we made after the all our edge variation. So now this is like the final mask for the brick shape. Okay, so we're going to use that guy, and we're going to make a new flood fill, and then we're going to use a flood fill to random grayscale, and then I'm just going to scan from there. Now this scan, I turned the position into a parameter, and the contrast I left it at 1, because if we go back to our parameters list, wait, what did I call it? So I called it missing brick amount. So you can call it whatever you'd like. And then it's a slider. So here we go. So yeah, so these are the names. Here's the default value that I used, 0.87. You can use whatever you'd like. And then basically when you go here, you can sliders. I'm going to open both of these up. So then here you can change your missing brick amount because it's pulling from this guy here. That's why I put a green box around it. That means it's a parameter. So you can have a lot of them missing, etc. Now, something else you could do, instead of using a scan, or you can leave the scan and then we could do a select instead. And then you can turn the contrast up. You can have this position here be like the random seed, because this scan is always going to be the same result. So actually, let's do that. Let's make this a new parameter. There's probably a better way to do this, but I haven't thought about it long enough. But I think this could be a quick fix. So we're going to call this missing brick seed. We'll leave it 0.6 as the default, and then if there's any issues, we'll worry about that later. And then we will okay, so that's gonna plug into there. So let's turn this up. what I'm looking at right now is I want these two to match, which they seem to match right now. So that's good. And now if I go here, this should change the seed basically. Oh, what is that? Okay, I'm not gonna worry about this too much right now, just because it's not part of the tutorial since we're just kind of going off the top, but we'll leave that there. So let me just undo that. We'll just go with that. Actually, we'll just disable it so we don't have any issues later, but alright, let's move on. Okay, so then that scan goes into the top of the foreground, and then this guy is going to continue over here. And then basically what we're doing is we're multiplying, because it's multiplying the black spots from this mask here. And then from this scan, we're going to make a portal and call that portal mask bricks missing. Because if we click here, it's giving us a mask here with the missing bricks. Now if I turn this on, this should bring back the bricks, and that's because this boolean is now active. So if I go here and see, so it's set to false. If I turn this back to true, then they're going to be gone. False, not gone. So to set that up, so this is before they're missing, so that's going to go into false, because obviously if you don't have missing bricks, then they should all be there. And then if you do have this turned on, then the multiplication blend should go on true, because now they're missing. So missing on true, not missing on false, and then I just made a boolean here, parameter missing bricks. Then after that, I'm calling this new portal here height brick only. Actually, do I even need that? Actually, I don't think I need it, but I don't want to start thinking about that now, because it's if I select it, it's not showing me that it's being used anywhere else. But that's fine. Now this guy, now we're gonna move on to this portion down here. There's something else here, but we're actually gonna save this till later. But what this says down here, just real quick, it's adding micro details to the top of the brick. I didn't want to add this on the height because it's just like a lot of information for the height. And if you were to use this in like Unreal Engine, trying to get tessellation on this kind of detail, well, this is kind of unnecessary. I'm not sure if it would affect performance. I would assume so, but let me just show you what it looks like, and then we'll come back to this later. I'm going to turn them on. Now, it's not hooked up here, actually. Let me just show you real quick. I have to turn this thing back on as well. And the reason why I don't want to do this yet, because we don't have this mask, our mortar mask yet. But basically, if we look over here, now I turn these off. So this is what it looks like right now, and then when we do this later, we'll start adding some micro details to the surface of the brick. But we'll save that for later. Alright, so let's continue. Okay, so now what's happening next is going to be our grout height blend, because now we're done with brick stuff, except for that micro detail. So I'm just going to actually do that again. Something I've noticed, sometimes when you try and drag from the height blend output and try and drag it over here, it won't connect for some reason. There must be a reason. But if you do it from here and then back, that should work. It's kind of weird, but okay. so here you can see the grout. Actually, I'm gonna pause and I'm gonna turn off these guys just because so kind of we can see the progress. So 1 second. Actually, I'm gonna let you guys see it. I think it's kind of cool to kind of see it becoming undone, and it kind of gives you a better picture of how it's done in steps. So let me just go over here. I'm just gonna quickly go through this, and you can see the changes down there. And again, I'm just pressing Shift T. All right. I think that's pretty much everything. All right, so we're just gonna turn things on again from the beginning here and kind of see what's happening. So right now, you're probably thinking, wow, that looks good. And maybe for your needs, for whatever material you're working on, might be okay. But basically what is showing right now is just a basic Clouds 2. So if we go back to the height blend, you can see it here. I have the contrast set to 1. And then I have a Boolean, again, for the height offset. So if we go here, this slider. So here you can see the settings that I use. So 0.45 for the default value. So then when we go over here, we can, you know, lower or increase the height. Where is it? This guy. So there you go. So you might want more detail just because of like this part here, but I'm gonna undo that, go back to 0.45. Okay, so we have a Clouds 2 default, and then we are going to multi-directional warp, grayscale this bad boy. Actually, I wonder if I should remove the bricks so it's easier to see. And then if I wanted to do that, I would have to make a temporary connection here and then plug this in here. Now you don't have to do this. You can just follow along. Oh God, look at that. Okay, so I'm just gonna do that so that we don't get the bricks in the way. I think it's much better for you to see what's happening. Okay, so this is the original one, just the Clouds 2. We turn on the directional warp, and we're just warping it by itself by an intensity of 50. I think everything else is the same. So we go from that to that. Then we blur it a little bit by 0.25. And then here we soft light it. So we take the same Clouds 2, we go down here into an auto levels, and then we do the gradient thing again, where we just take the white marker and we turn down the blue and the red and just leave the green up to 255. And then we use a normal to height HQ or high quality. You can see the settings there. We soft light that to get this detail. And what I was trying to do here is add some kind of like some areas are lower than others, but also just trying to throw in together. Now sometimes when I was just starting to learn, when I was watching tutorials, I was thinking, how do they know to do this? How do they know to use this noise and do this warp? 99% of the time it's just random. I just throw in random noises and then see what I like best. You know, I kind of have an idea. If I want something rough, then I'd probably stick with the Clouds 2 and then not do this. If I want something a little bit more like organic looking, then, you know, I do some warping. But that's basically as much, at least for me, thought that goes into what noise I'm using and when. And then you have to think about, like, do you want something that's like moisture, where it's like a bunch of little details with spacing in between, or like a black and white spots where there's a lot of gaps in between. That's like what I think about, not so much like, you know, there's a lot of trial and error. Okay, so once we soft light that, we have another soft light here. And again, just adding more variation. So for this, we add a moisture noise, and then we make a portal for it because we use the moisture noise a lot. And then we do a transform 2D, and I think here, yeah, we just, we increase the tiling. You can see it tiling. We do the same trick. Again, you can just copy this, or copy these two and paste them over here, and then just change the settings here. So that's a 0.5 soft light. Then here we do another one, but you can see what's changing here. We're going to take our moisture noise, the one we just made over here, make another portal, or you can drag underneath into a transform 2D. And I think here I just rotated it 90 degrees. You can see that the black spot is over here. Yeah, just rotated it so it's not sitting in the same spot. Another soft light, or I think, wait, did we just go over this one? Or I think we went over this. 0.5. Now here we do a min darken. So you can see the difference there. And to get that, we took that same transform 2D, we did the green thing, we did the normal to high quality, or to high quality. Now down here, we take from that and I think I just rotated it. And then I increased the tiling. So then I take these two, the smaller version and the tiled version of itself, and I just did a min darken. And then I increase the tiling again, and then that feeds into here. So this is a good way to, or this is how you can track down once your mortar starts having a lot of different things happening. It's kind of hard to pinpoint okay exactly where did those like dips or holes, or you know, whatever you want to call these crevices happen. You can just go through and turn them on and off, and then you can pinpoint, you know, where your problem might be. All right. Then we have a vector warp grayscale here. Now this isn't like how we normally use it, where we use it to split up bricks or, you know, islands. We're taking this green here and we're plugging that in, and you can see if we zoom in here, I'm just giving it a bit of a slight warp. So if we look at this guy here, for example, so it looks like this, and we're just warping it a little bit, so now it just kind of gets a little longer. So it's like kind of pulling it to warping it a little bit. Not too much. We're using a strength of 0.01. This is very sensitive. Let's turn that back on. And then here we do a histogram range. Doesn't seem like it's doing anything, but we'll leave it in there because it looks cool. I think it might be because there's an auto level somewhere, maybe. I don't know. I don't want to start questioning it now. It's just a default 0.5, 0.5. What it should be doing is squishing. Okay. Actually, that's bothering me. Why is it not doing anything? Oh, because of this auto levels here. So this is what it should be looking like. But it's okay because this is needed later. But we'll just leave it in there for now. Yeah, because then I'll forget later. Okay, so let's go continue on. So then here we add some small details to the mortar. Overlay 0.1. We take a clouds 3 noise. It's got all these little tiny pixels here. Very cool. I don't reuse this, so we probably don't need this portal, but I made one anyways. Then here I want it to have some spots in the mortar be higher than other spots, just to kind of have some more interest in the in between. Because if it all sits at the same height, then it's going to look kind of the same throughout the entire mortar. But I wanted some parts to be more imperfect than others, so I added it add linear dodge here, and you can see here that we have like this hill here, and it kind of goes back down, and then like over here it kind of goes up a little bit, and so on. Now this is a interesting way to make this purlin noise. I was trying, you could have just made a new purlin noise and just scaled it down to 4, but I should probably just done that. But what I did was I took a purlin noise 8, or with a scale of 8, and I did a transform 2D, and I scaled it down by half. So I multiplied by 2. But when you do, anytime you go in that direction, you're going to break your tiling. So there's a fancy node here called Make It Tile Photo Grayscale. And this one has changes to it, but if we just did a normal one, it tries to blend the edges so that it's seamless. But you get, this is where the blending is happening. So then you have all of these sliders here to kind of fix it. I think it's starting to look a little better. And you can play around with it to like, you know, fix it. And then like at the end of it, you can do like a blur to kind of just end up blurring it all together. So then this seems more usable, and it has its, you know, seamless feature to it. So that's what I did up here. So scaled it down. Did the make a tile. These are the settings that I used for the make a tile. And then I blurred it. And then I did an auto levels to get the full range. And then I did a levels here. I think I just changed the level in mid here to 0.55. And then into the add linear dodge by 0.35. So then you can see here that we're adding this to that. And then I use this again later. So I just made a portal out of this auto levels. The -4 or the -x4. Again, I was probably just overthinking this. It's just supposed to mean that it's a custom made. That it's not a true, like, it's not like I did a... If it was this, then the negative would not be there. But if there's a negative, to me, that just means that it's one that I made myself by downscaling or, you know, reducing the tiling manually. All right. So then we have, okay. So this part's important because if we wanted to have missing bricks, when the bricks are missing, I wanted the missing brick to leave like the shape that it was taken in before it fell off or was removed. So basically the imprint. So that's what this is. All right, so to do that, we're going to take our mask brick shape, and then we're going to blur it, and then we're going to histogram scan it, then we blur it again. Now you're probably thinking, why am I doing blur, scan, blur? The reason for that is that I need, I guess a distance node could work, but there's a specific reason why this. So I need, if I just use this, so let me just turn these off. Then you're gonna get this, right? Where it's just like a harsh subtraction into your mortar. So what I do is I blur it a little bit, and it gives us this. Okay, let me explain the full concept. Okay, so here's the mask. I need this to extend further than it is. So I need it to like go up to like here. Because I want, jeez, how do I explain this? Let me just bring this back up. In some areas, you can see some of that subtraction that we're working on now. like right here. I don't want the mortar to go completely up to the brick. I want it to be some spot where it kind of like dips down. It's hard to see here because of the shading. Let me try this one here. Yeah, so you can see kind of here that it kind of starts to like fall inward. And in some areas it's more than others because I do break it up. Like, so you can see this is like some very harsh shadowing in there. So I do want it to be a bit of a fall off. I don't want it to be like a harsh cut like this. So to get this to extend past the bounds that it's in, I blur it. So then when I do a scan, I'm able to reach like over here. Okay, that's where the pixels are. So then I scan it. So now this is further than this. Or closer in, I guess. Where did I go in? I must have a reason. Okay, so then it goes in, and then I blur it again. And then we get this. Now, here we do a slow blur because I wanted to break that up. Otherwise, it's going to be the same throughout everywhere. So again, you know, you want to have as much breakup, as much detail when you're working with like realistic textures. So then here we have a Perlin noise set to 12. Again, probably not needed because it's not used anywhere else. But it goes into transform 2D. I just increased the tiling. So technically this is 24. Min mode, low intensity, and then we use that to kind of break it up. So in some areas it's more harsh than in others where there's more of a fall off. Then we have a directional warp. Now this part's a little important because what this is doing basically is it's warping this guy in this warp angle direction. So 200, so down. Because these are our bricks on the wall. I want things to kind of like fall downward. So our drip is going to go down. Snow is going down. So there's a lot of intentionality in the direction that I use in some of these warps. Or whenever I use them. So actually, shall we bring the bricks back? So I want there, so here you can see that it's here, the mortar is kind of like going up to the brick, but here it's kind of like dipping down. But what's happening here is I'm having the mortar. Am I in the wrong? Okay, now we're proper way up. So you can see right here that we kind of have it like kind of like sagging down. But again, it's sagging down imperfectly. If I were to remove if I was to remove this, then it kind of, this line right here, it's kind of all coming down. Just like, okay, so here, if I do a, if I just make this white, then it's going to apply whatever is happening here uniformly throughout the entire thing. So if we were to plug this in, now you can see that it's kind of dropping everything down together, right? Boom, all evenly. I don't want it to be even. I want some areas to be more than others. So then I use this mask basically, so that it pulls some areas and not others. Should be doing this. See how it's only lowering this side? So now you get this like imperfect drop where it's not like everything dropping like it is here. Again, just about the small details and small variations. This is a Perlin noise 12. I think this is... Oh no, we do use it over here. Okay. So yeah, it's just this guy going under. And then for the levels, I just wanted to isolate some black spots, because the black spot, it's where it's not sagging, but it's not dropping. So that's why I want to have some areas where it's white and some where it's black. All right. So then, what's this? So still have a little bit to go. I'm just gonna do this again. Okay, so now we're here. Just adding some more detail. Now this detail, actually no, this detail is everywhere. I thought this detail was only in the missing spots, but you know, it's everywhere. So we do a subtract 0.04 noise dirt, basic default noise dirt. Looks like this. Here we scan it because I don't want that many, otherwise we're gonna have this. Don't want that. I just want some of them, so I just increase the position on the scan. Subtract. Now here, so far everything we've been doing has just been for the imprint under the brick. Now what this is going to add the missing brick holes. We'll worry about this afterwards. So to do the missing brick holes, we're gonna go back over here, and we need two masks. We need this first portal is going to be the mask bricks missing. So that's that one we just made not too long ago at the start of the this part of the tutorial. So this guy. And then we're going to invert it. Because what we're trying to do is isolate which ones are missing. So here it's showing us which ones are missing by being black, and then here when we invert it, they turn white, but we don't want the in between. So then we take this guy, which is all the bricks except for the in between, and then we use that to multiply. So then we just have here the missing bricks. So these are the bricks that are being subtracted. So if we go top down view, so we got this guy, this guy, this guy, that's this guy, this guy, this guy, and then like these four are these guys. Okay. So then we do a multiply to get the, so we're using two masks and we're multiplying them together to get this new mask. And yeah, we make a portal out of it. But before we do that, actually, just to make it a little cleaner, let's do... Actually, no, it's fine. Okay, so after we get the mask, we're going to bevel it. So if we get real close, this light bevel you're seeing right here, that's this guy, I think. It should be at least. Bevel has this weird thing where you can't disable it for some reason. So I'm just going to drag and skip it. Yeah, so this is without the bevel. And then this guy is coming from this bevel here. Then I use a levels here. And I'm just going to round this up. It's 0.6125. And this is just determining how high the bevel is going to go. And then that is going to feed into a blend, set to multiply, and then it's going to use this mask that we just made. So actually what I'm going to do is, actually no, I'm not going to break it right now. So then after that, I invert it. And then that's going to feed into a slope blur before it makes its way here. So then if we turn this off, this is what it looks like before it. And then we do a slope blur to kind of you know, make it more interesting and break it up. So to do the breakup, we have this noise clouds. This is a standard noise clouds 1. We do the gradient trick into the normal to height. Let me lower this a little bit. And then here we increase the tiling again. Then here we just rotate it 90 degrees. Then we min darken the two. Then we blur it a little bit. And then we use that to slope blur. Low intensity, min mode, samples all the way up. And then what we just had, plus this new slope blur, we're going to use min darken. And this is determining how deep it's going. You don't want to go too deep or you're going to start losing detail because you're going down to 0. So we're going to go with 0.5. And then we have another boolean here. This is the missing bricks boolean. So just make another switch grayscale and change it to missing bricks because we made this earlier. And then if it has missing bricks, so that's this guy here, that's going to go into true. And then if you don't have any missing bricks, then you're going to pull from here before we add the missing bricks. And that's going to go into false. Now right now I have the boolean for missing bricks turned off. But if I turned it on, you can see that they come back. So I'm just going to keep it off for now. So that's the missing brick indents for the mortar. And now we're going to move on to the cracks. So again, I just did a simple crack system here. Took it cells 4, scale 24. And then I warp it directionally to kind of get some more so that the lines aren't straight. And then I use the same noise here over and over again. Noise crystal 1, 32 scale. So it's your default, or just a crystal 1 turned up to 32, which I think is the default. Warp it by, I guess just change that to 5. And then I just choose different directions. So this one's at 0. This one's at, let's just do 214. Negative 214. And then we'll do negative 122 for that one. And it's all just using the same noise here. And that way we have a bunch of cracks going in different directions because we warped it. Then I do an edge detect to get it to detect the this different color islands. And once we have the edge detect done, we're going to bevel it inward, so negative. So you can see that it starts to kind of fall inward towards the center. Then I auto level it to get the full range back. Then I slope blur it to kind of break it up. And I use the same noise from here. And I increase the tiling by 2. And then I feed that into it. So then because right now all the cracks are like, you know, pretty much even. So then here I make it so that there's breakup within the cracks, which makes it look more realistic. Here we have a lonely Gaussian noise set to 16. Multiply. Now the reason for this is to, again, add varying heights to the cracks, because right now they're all cutting just as deep. And I want some areas to be deeper than others. So we just take a Gaussian noise. You could also use a Perlin noise. So you can see that there's some like voids in between the cracks. And here you can see it more easier when we bring up in auto levels. Now here, the idea here is that when I have missing bricks, so let's turn this back on. Wherever I have missing bricks, I want the cracks to be less noticeable. So you can see here the cracks go pretty deep, but over here where there's a brick missing, the cracks are not as deep. Now I haven't studied bricks and old bricks and missing bricks, so I don't know if the cracks should even be there or not, but I just made them a little softer where they're missing. So that's the intent of this. Otherwise they would look like this. So we take this auto levels into this blend, min darken 0.65, and then we take this mask, which is the mask bricks missing isolated, which is just this guy here from earlier, which is the missing bricks but isolated. I invert it, and then I feed that into the foreground, and then the result of that goes into true, and the false is obviously before the blend because it's here as if there were no missing bricks. And then this is the missing bricks boolean again. We're just reusing it, and then that feeds into here, and to subtract by 0.15. So that's our cracks. Now here we do some more surface details, but only in the spots where, is it everywhere? It's in spots where the bricks are missing. Take a moisture noise. Take a transform 2D, and we actually scale it 4 times. So we increase the tiling a lot, and then we offset it a little bit. Then we histogram scan it. Let me get closer for you guys. Okay. So then what we do here is we take the same result here that we used a little bit ago. Should have probably made it a portal so we don't have this line going through, but we're basically using that to go into this, and we're inverting that. And then we're scanning it. And then we're feeding that into the opacity. Using this mask to control where this noise is. It's only in this spot. So it's contained within here. Then we add another layer of detail. You can see there. We take this histogram scan, we do the gradient trick, we do this thing again, and then I increase the tiling. Actually, no, I don't. What do I do this for? It doesn't seem like I used this. This is just a default transform 2D, so you don't even need that. And then we reuse the same scan from here again. So again, just adding some more detail here on the surface of the missing bricks spots. Now this is only for the missing bricks areas. Now here we add some more detail to the mortar. Now this is only being applied on the high spots. So you can see that this isn't happening where the missing bricks are. To do that, we did a default crystal 1 noise. Then we increased the tiling again. Then we scanned it to kind of isolate the noise. Then we slope blurred it by a default clouds 1. Min mode 0.16. Then I took a crystal 1 here, a 12 scale crystal 1. Multiplied it again to just break it up. Then auto levels, bring back the range. And then here we took our mask brick shape. So this guy, we blurred it a little bit. And then we subtracted these white spots from this, and it leaves us with just this noise in the in-between areas of our bricks. So now this is only going to be happening, and I added a blur here so that this wouldn't be a harsh fall off like that. You can see like it's like pixel perfect. So I blurred a little bit to get that. Now you could also like add a slope blur to this so that the blur is not straight and it like cuts in and out and stuff, but you know, this is not real life, okay? There's a limit to detail. Also, I'd probably do that if I was working on a 4K and I was spending like 2 years on this material, then I'd probably go that hard. But so then we subtract it here by 0.2, and then we kind of get these different like details here where they kind of cut deep into the mortar, like missing chunks. Or after that, we're almost done with the mortar. We're almost done altogether. Oh yeah, we're almost done. Okay. So then what's happening here? Let me do that again. Okay, big changes there. Okay, so just another final thing I did is I took our height cliff portal that we made earlier in the previous episode, and then I increased the tiling a whole bunch. So I think I just divided by it. I divided it twice. Then we do an auto levels. I don't think I need it, but just in case. And then we just do a min darken. And this just goes on everything. It doesn't care. It does not discriminate. And it really like breaks everything up. Now you can also turn this on and off and see what it looks like, you know, without it. So let's do that. So let's reconnect this. We can dissolve this guy. So then this is without it. And then if we turn this back on, this is it with it. Now when all the bricks are missing, it's going to give you a different look than when the bricks are there. So just keep that in mind. Always try it, you know, when you're working on this, try it without the bricks and then bring the bricks back and then see how it affects it. But I think that this makes for a lot more interesting and varying height. But we're not done with the mortar. There's more than we do after. Okay, let's continue. Now here, there's probably a better way to do this, but I have two height blends because we need to make use of two versions of height. One that has the bricks and another with missing bricks. And we need both of these to exist at all times. So right now, we have a boolean for the missing bricks, right? So if we turn this off, then the other version dies. So what I do here is I have two of them, and one is, let me turn this back off. This, okay, what's important here is the height mask, which is when you use a height blend and you mix two of these together, it tells you which one's which basically. So when you plug in the height bottom, so in this case it's our bricks, and then when we mix in our grout, this mask tells us which one's which. So you can see here, this is the mortar, the white, and then the black is the bricks. Now, if we turn this back on, you can see here that we have two different height masks, even though these are the same settings. And it's the same thing plugged into both. So see, this guy's going into the top and the top for both of these. But for the bottom here of this height blend, we're plugging in height bricks full portal. And the reason for that is because if we turn on missing bricks, then our input here, our main path, has the missing bricks. And like I said, we need two of these because we need one where they're always there. So that's what this second one is. So then that's why we're using this portal, because this portal is before So this is when we started the episode. This is where we removed the missing bricks. Right here. So before it, all our bricks are still here. So this is the mask that we're using again here. So that's plugging into here because these bricks are never going to be missing. The only ones that are going to be missing are these because these are pulling from after that boolean. So then both of these have a contrast of 1, and then because I need these to always match, if I change one of the height offset, I don't want to have to change the other. So I turned it into a parameter. Oops. So if we look over here into our parameters, it's a slider, and it is this one. So brick and mortar height offset, and I have it set to default 0.45. I think I mentioned this earlier, just to go over it real quick again. So then, yeah, so if I change that, it changes for both of them. So they're always going to be aligned. I don't have to worry about one being different than the other. Okay, yeah, so this way we have both of these existing, because if I toggle that, then it's going to remove it from here, and it's going to change this mask, and I need this other mask at all times. Now, there's probably a different way to do this that I probably missed in the logic, in the flow, but it's okay. All right. So now that we have these two set up, we're going to take this height mask from this guy, and we're going to call that one mask mortar. And then for this guy, we're going to call it mask mortar all bricks. Now, technically, right now they're the same. So if we click this guy and then we click this guy, they're the same mask. But once I turn on missing bricks, this is what one mask looks like, and then this is what the other looks like. Just to show you the differences in masks. All right. So now that we got past that speed bump, now we're going to work on our mortar crevices. Very tiny detail. So you can see right here. I'm going to turn off my missing bricks. All right. So to make that detail could have probably been done. Actually, no. All right. So we're going to pull the mask from the bottom height blend here into a non-uniform blurred grayscale, intensity of 2, and we're basically creating a gradient of the mortar. Then we're inverting it, and then we're doing a slope blur grayscale using a basic clouds 2. Then that is being added by 0.8 with a noise Perlin scale of 8 into the green thing, into the height, the normal to height, and then I level it out a little bit into a multiply with a noise clouds 2, a basic noise clouds 2, or clouds 2. Then I auto level it to get the full range, multiply it to get this, and then this is the difference. I wanted to break up the detail in between. So like, for example, if we undo this, you can see here this detail, but it's happening in all the in-between. So I use this noise to have some areas not have that detail. Now here we do a copy 0.33. We take a noise Perlin noise and we increase the tiling by 2. Then we slow blur it again. Very low intensity, set to max. Into the copy. So then we go from this to that. Just to add a secondary layer of detail. We take a that custom Perlin noise that we made earlier with the -4. And we rotate it. I think yeah, we did rotate it. And then I use a levels here to get more of the black. And then that goes into the opacity, and then this guy goes into the foreground. All of that work just to get this, but actually it's probably more noticeable in some other spots. Actually, I think when I did this, I wanted to get a different effect, and then I changed my mind later, and then I changed it to this. Alright, so we're going to make a quick pit stop here to make a new mask. We're going to take the result of that mortar crevices that we just did into a multiply. And then we're going to take our mask mortar, which I think is from the top. Yep, from the top high blend. So we're going to take that guy. We're going to multiply. So now this is our mortar. I think that's the last thing we do. Yeah, okay, so that's the end of the mortar right here. So because this is the end, I want to make an AO mask that's just for the mortar. So we take this mortar mask, we multiply it, so we get rid of the bricks. And then I do an ambient occlusion, HBAO. And then if I do an ambient occlusion of this, oh no, they look the same. Oh, okay, well, I guess I didn't need to do that, but that's okay, we'll keep it anyways. I thought that because the top would be missing, then the ambient occlusion and shadowing would be different, but actually, no, it is different. So because this one has the bricks, it's casting some ambient occlusion here, whereas here, there is no brick, so you don't get shadowing there. Which now I'm starting to wonder if I want that shadowing. Where's this used? It's not a big deal. Okay, so then after the HBAO, we do a new portal, and we call it AO mortar only. So this is just the ambient occlusion for the mortar. All right. Okay, so the last thing here that we do is the lichen. Actually, there's one more thing after that, but so now we need our lichen. So let's turn it on, and you can see the differences. And to do that, we're going to start over here with a grunge map 004 to get these spotty looking things. We increase the tiling up to 8 times, so we get a lot of them. Then I take that result and I double it here. And I think I rotated it. Yeah, so then we rotate it. And then I use itself to multiply by itself to kind of break it up so we don't have this much. So we break it up, and then we break it up again by using subtract 0.75, using a black and white spots 1 into a histogram scan. We subtract, we get rid of some of that so it doesn't look so repeating or tiling. And then here we do a max lighten with a noise dirt 1. We scan it again. Actually, we used this earlier to make holes, and now we're using it again to add. So the opposite of making holes, but it's in the same spot. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a 2D transform, and then we're just going to rotate it 90 degrees. And then plug that in. That way they're not this these spots are not resting in the same spots as before. Or if you're using a different dirt one here instead of a portal, you can just change the seed to one seed up, or +1 to the seed. I'm just gonna leave it like that, looking kind of ugly, but whatever. Okay, so then we have max light here, and then we have vector warp again, 10. Or I want to make sure that I want to break up the lichen so that the lichen's not the same on every brick. Now, you probably don't need this because it would make sense that lichen would kind of grow and run between the mortar and the brick, but the lichen was looking too tileable here, so I just used the brick split to break it up. I use this more to break it up than to have it not run from one brick to the other, because the gap in between is much bigger than the size of the lichen, so you would never have one that kind of runs from one to the other. Okay, so then once we do the warping, we do an auto levels just in case. Then we do a levels. We lower the level out high. And then here, sorry about that. And then here we do a max lighten. And then when we plug into there, we take this clouds 2 here. I think it's a default one again. Into a scan. Into a multi-directional warp grayscale. By its previous input. And then we vector warp it. So actually what we're going to do, I'm going to take a quick pause, and we're going to set this up right here real quick, because this is this shows you the lichen. So basically what I did here is I took the 3 masks, the masks for the mortar, the mask for the brick, and the mask for the lichen. And then I just gave it some placeholder colors so that I can tell which one's which and makes working a little easier. So I started with a uniform color here, set to 0.7. Then I used another uniform color set to 0.45, and then I used the mask mortar portal. And then we do the same process again, but this one's a little bit darker, so for the lichen, it's probably too dark. Let's go like 0.3. And then I took the mask lichen portal, and then I histogram scanned it a little bit. And then that gives us that result. Should probably be like 0.75. There you go. And then I do a final color test, just that I know it's not the proper final color. And then it goes in here. Now I'm going to talk about this guy in the next part, in the base color, because this is a really cool node. Alright. So then we get that set up. So now let's go back to our lichen. So then we were right here. So if I turn that off. So right now we've been adding this lichen, so it's just like the spotty one, but now we're going to add these big chunky boys. So we're going to start, or we already did some of this, right? Yeah, we did that. I think we were left off here. Okay, so then here we do need that warp with the bricks portal, the random color D, because we don't want, I didn't want the lichen to run from one brick to the other, and because I don't want the lichen to be on every single brick. So we do worry about that going forward here. But first we blur it, and then I want to break it up so that it's not so perfect. Because this is without it, and then this is with it. I do want to break it up a little bit, so I take a white noise fast, and then I use this a lot, so we do make a portal for it. Now this one doesn't really have any settings. So then we use the histogram scan to kind of get rid of some of that and have some more spacing in between. And then we blur it a little bit and we get this. And then I auto level it. And then I feed that into the foreground. And then we multiply to get that. Just to have a little bit of breakup on that lichen patch. And then we take the AO brick only mask, which looks like this. Wait, when did we do this? Let me just make sure I cover this. Oh, okay, so yeah, that was just at the end of, or at the start of the episode, we did this guy here. So yeah, that's this guy. Just want to make sure I covered that. And then we take that mask, and then we scan it a little bit. Because what I'm trying to do here is isolate the deep part of our stone. And I'm just trying to work with kind of like the flat area, because that's where I want the lichen to go. So I take this result. So you can see this is without it. And then I multiply the dark spots, which are like the deep ends, the crevices, and I remove the lichen from that area. Now you could probably just, you probably don't need to go all the way. You can probably do a little bit, but we'll stick with all the way. Because I think it adds more contrast rather than have like this patch just kind of uniformly go all over. And then here we take a grunge spots and we blur it. Oh god, it's a big blur. Turn the quality up. I forgot to do that one. I don't know if it really does anything, but everybody does it. And then here we subtract. Again, just subtracting some imperfections, some details from the lichen, so it's not just so uniform. We auto it. And then we apply it. We max lighten to our previous lichen. Now here, I do take the flood fill random grayscale distanced version, so this guy, and I do a select. And you could do that thing we did earlier with the missing bricks seed thing, so that you can change where the lichen sits. If you don't like where it is, you can, add some parameters, sliders, so that you can have different variations or different seeds. And then we take our mask, our mortar mask here. And then we subtract so that we get this. Because we don't want the lichen to be on the mortar. If I were to remove this, then would it go? Yeah, you can see it right here. Because that part is technically under the mortar, so I don't want it to show up there. So that's why we need to have this subtraction here using the mortar mask. Now instead of having to invert, if you could do invert, or you could do a multiply or subtract. So in this case, I'm working here with the mortar, so I'm going to subtract. But if this mask was the opposite, so if we were to invert this, then I need to multiply, because that's what this is. So you don't have to do an invert grayscale. You can just, think about which side of the mask you have. But anyways, then after that, we do a scan. Now this scan is only being applied to the height version, and then our lichen mask is going to be separate, because I want different values or different scans for different uses, for like the roughness versus the color. So we just have that guy. And then this is the guy that I think now, because we just got to it, that's what you can plug in here. So you probably couldn't do this before, but now you can. Now that we have our lichen mask, So then we plug that into here and we make it add, because I want it to have a bit of its own height information. And then we auto level it. If we didn't have this, it would look like that. And I want to get the full range of everything, so put that back on. Again, like I said, this level is just the placeholder levels. Everything here is the same. And then we're back here. Now the last thing we need to do is, or there's two things. There's this guy and then this guy that I mentioned at the start of the episode that we were going to cover. Our micro details. That's what it is. So if we get close to our brick, I'm going to just start turning some things on. It's going to be hard to see because it's not... Alright, that's okay. I'll show you guys. I think I already showed you what this looked like. So, right. So we're going to add another layer of surface detail in the normal channel only. So we're going to take our height bricks full. Plug that into our height to normal. We're going to have a noise black and white spots 2 scaled once default seed. And we're going to turn the intensity up to 5. We're going to take our mask brick shape. So this guy with all the bricks. And then we are going to do a blend here between these two normals. Now the reason why I use a height to normal world here because I want this to match this guy. Because this is telling me how high the bricks are. So I want the bricks to be the same height. And then this mask is being used on the opacity because I want this surface detail to only be on the bricks. Otherwise, it's going to be applied to the mortar. Also, if you don't have this opacity mask, it doesn't work. So if I turn that off, actually it does, but it puts it everywhere. So yeah, so that's why we have that mask there. I was thinking of something else. And then we do the same thing over here. Very subtle detail. We take our white noise fast. Actually, we have a portal for this. You can use the portal version of it, or you can just make another one. These are very cheap, so it's not a big deal. Same process. We scan it. And then we sharpen it. Could probably just use another scan. But anyways, normal, set to 1, because this is already pretty binary. And then we do a copy set to 0.1. Otherwise, you look very grainy. So we do 0.1. And then that gives us a new mask or a new portal called normal detailed bricks. So this is just the brick detail for the normals, basically. So then this guy gets used over here in this little setup. So that's this guy, the changes we just made, that's this guy. And then here we have our normal height end, which is this guy. So then we take those two, the one we just made, and here. So think of this fitting in between, because we're taking those two that we just made, and then we're normal blending them. Use the normal blend. And then we're using this mortar mask again, but I need the opposite end, so I'm going to invert it because I want this to only be on the bricks. I don't want this blend. I don't want it to blend into the mortar. So then you can see here that it's being applied to the bricks only and not the mortar. If we didn't have this, nothing happens. This is what I was trying to say earlier. And I think it's because I have use mask turned on. If I turn that off, it would do that. Which I'm not going to go into, but make sure that's turned on. and then it's asking for a mask. Otherwise, it's going to do it on both or over the mortar and the brick. So we plug that in there. And now you can see that those macro details are only happening on the brick. And then once that is blended together, we do another portal. We call this one final normal. And for me, when I have final, that means that this is the end. So the end is going into this normalized thing, like I said, because it's what the professional that I saw did. So we are just going to do it. I think it basically, it makes sure that your normal is within a realistic range. I think that's what it technically is supposed to do. Which we do, which is what this guy up here is as well. But we'll talk about that in the next episode. I hope I didn't miss anything, but that is the end of height. If I broke something, if I missed something, just let me know in the tutorial. It happened before where I didn't show a couple blend nodes, and I just, I'll make it right. I'll do what I need to do. I'll drop some screenshots with some text or whatever I need to do. But yeah, let me know. This one was definitely longer, obviously 2 parts, but I think, you know, it's needed for the amount of detail that went into this one. Let me know what you guys think. The next part will be base color, and I'll catch you guys there. Peace. Oh, have a happy new year. All right, bye.